Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Franz, Sidney, and today with me we have Rebeka Ryan, all the way from Australia, and she's going to talk about self-sabotage. So, welcome to you, and thank you for coming to the show.
Hi, Franz. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
I know, right? And we tried and tried before, it wasn't working. Today we have amazing internet connection, so we can connect with you guys and talk about Rebeka. She's like not just a nobody, she's a transformational therapist, and she also wrote a book called a happier, healthier, and wealthier. I can't even pronounce it because it's so good. So to make you healthy, wealthy, and why not? Happy goes together with being healthy inside in your mind and not just outside, outward. So why are we talking about inside? Because self-sabotage is such a hidden thing and it affects quite a lot of people. One of whom I was talking today, they destroyed all the chances to have a relationship because of lack of love and self-belief. And this happens to many of us. We grow up thinking we're not good enough, we're not thin enough, we're not whatever. But we don't realize that until we start cutting off all the chances and we go to the 30s and 40s and we're like, I'm not really living the life I want. And it's because everything goes wrong. Then you look back and it's because we've been sabotaging that. We fail on purpose. And then we just confirm in a belief. Isn't that incredible? And so we need to know better. We need to know better so we can do better. That's what Maya Angelou said. And you quoted quite rightly in your book. So what kind of client comes to you seeking for help and you find out has self-sabotage?
So many people come to me feeling really, really stuck. They know what they want, but they just find that they're trying to get there and they go two steps forward, one step back, or one step forward, two steps back. And they're constantly repeating patterns. So, through working with clients, I identified 7 patterns that I saw all the time. Yeah. So, 7 archetypal patterns. And I call these patterns the personas of protection. Because with our subconscious mind, our mind, full stop, is always trying to help us. So, it's one of the rules of the mind that we always want to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So, there's always some motive for all our behaviors, even if it's hidden from us. And often things are operating at the subconscious level with our beliefs. So, to give you some examples, when people come to see me, there was one lady and she knew a lot about nutrition. She had a new job. She was working in an office. She had to do a lot of presentations. She was quite excited about all these new opportunities. However, what she was doing every day, she'd go and have a lunch break and then she'd eat some lunch and then she'd find herself going across the road and she'd buy like 3 or 4 different chocolate bars and then she'd just sneakily eat them at her desk. And at the same time, she was trying to lose weight and she knew so much about nutrition. At one stage in her life, she trained to be a personal trainer. So she knew what to do to have a lifestyle, but she just kept being drawn to this all the time. And she was trying to work out what was going on. And so, working with her, we found out with her subconscious beliefs, she didn't feel safe to be visible, to have people looking at her, because in this new role, she had to do a lot of presentations, she had to lead a team, there were a lot of men in the team, and she got along well with them. There was nothing, there was no threat at all. Like people were respectful, they were kind, she was getting along with people. But deep down inside, she didn't feel safe. And when we found out the subconscious belief that was driving that behavior, it turned out that when she was like 12 or 13, she was at school, she was a leader with the sports team, and she was one of those girls who developed early. She was one of the first girls to be wearing a bra. People teased her about it, and she didn't like people looking at her body. And so the behavior with her eating lots of chocolate and some unhealthy foods and gaining lots of weight, it was to deflect attention so that people wouldn't look at her. So, yeah, it can just be so fascinating.
Yeah, because also in some occasions, I don't want to say all the time, but some people would
Mm.
make very heavy comments on your body when you are in high school, and
Mm.
you feel like an object. And I feel that this has played a lot of role when I read all the story of body dysmorphia. A lot of
Mm,
ladies who are happy, bubbly children, when they grow up and become more feminine, they attract the attention of certain guys who make sexual comments on them. And so they want to press and cover and hide because they feel like an object. So,
exactly.
yeah,
Ex-
that's,
yeah, exactly. And to go back to the personas of protection, what
mm,
this lady was doing, the persona that was running her life was the runner. So she felt scared. And so with the runner, it's trying to run away from our emotions. And so she was seeking that dopamine hit, like by going for the chocolate and eating all those unhealthy foods. And it was to soothe the anxious feelings inside.
I mean, I'm a chocolate lover. Everyone who knows me. But to use that as a soothing, calming, yeah, that's quite a thing, isn't it? So instead of being a one-off treat, once a week, if you have it all the time, then there is secondary gain there that you can't really stop. That's when we do the RFPI in RTT, thinking, what's the role and the function of this chocolate? Or let's say the symbol of caloric foods. The role is different, isn't it? That's why, because she knew about nutrition, because if she had not known about nutrition, she would have just been eating lettuce. But lettuce is only 11 calories, while chocolate is like, I don't know, 300 calories. So that's an easy way of getting your body to pile up the fat so people will stop making those comments that you're not interested in. So, wow. So, how did you get this lady to turn around and stop the self sabotage? I'm sure she's very surprised to have found out. So, what happened then?
Oh, so once we worked out what was going on, she was able to release those limiting beliefs and she realized that yes, she was perfectly safe in the environment where she was. And
Hmm.
so it was a matter of reaffirming that. And if those fears, like they didn't arise anymore because she knew that she was safe, and then she could make those changes really easily. So, yeah, and she got in touch with me and she said this was the easiest thing because she was no longer trying to go on a diet. It was just choosing to eat healthy food that supported her that she actually enjoyed.
Yeah, see? It's good to enjoy your chocolate. I mean, isn't that an antioxidant? Tell me that it's good for us. We have to have some chocolate, you know?
I love some chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate's great, but I don't want to eat it every day.
Yeah. And it stops being such a special thing if you have it every single day. I mean, for me at least, it would be it's such an intense taste. I wouldn't want to have it all the time, although I love it. I think it's a thing I love the most to eat chocolate, black chocolate, sugar free. So good. So you do that as a job. So you help people, professional and non, to go through this, to overcome these areas of stress, anxiety, and also relationship at work, which might have problems with emotional issues. And that's why we you wrote the book because you wanted to kind of separate and quantify. And this is actually what's going on. That's a persona. Do you want to talk a little bit about these personas? Like give us one or two examples of the type of people that we have inside our mind that populate it and tell us what to do. Give me a good example.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so there's 7 personas of protection. So we've got the overthinker. So the overthinker is someone who worries all the time, who's got a lot of self-doubt, doesn't trust themselves. So then we've got the pauper. So the pauper has this poor me kind of mentality. So they're always looking at the glass half empty and they've just got a very negative view to everything that's going on. They always think they believe in Murphy's Law, like if it can go wrong, it will go wrong and it will go wrong to me, for me. So, yeah, so that's then we've got the tyrant. So, the tyrant is trying to control everything. And the tyrant only feels good if they are in control of a situation. Then we've
Mm,
got the mouse. The mouse is really scared to show up, to be seen, to put their ideas forward. Even if they are the most capable person in the room, they won't be putting their hand up because they doubt themselves so much. Then we've got the runner that we mentioned, who's always trying to run away from their emotions. We've got the inner critic. So it's that voice that's always criticizing us, and that's a big one for most of us. And then lastly, we've got the volcano. So the person who just cannot moderate their emotions and they immediately flare up. So, yeah, so that's what they're doing, whether it's like with anger or tears, they just can't sit with their emotions at all. So, yeah, so they're the 7 personas of protection. So would you like to me to give you some more client examples?
Yeah, I would love to have one more before we go to the rest of the questions. Yeah, because I always think that a little story helps a lot to really identify the principles.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. All right. There was this lady came to me and she had a lot of fear about going to the doctor. So about having any sort of procedures done. And, she was like getting older and she needed to go to the doctor regularly. There were a few things she needed to have checked out. However, like just so much fear inside her body. And as soon as she made the appointment, she would just be worrying the whole day or the next day. And so anyway, we wanted to work out what was going on, what was driving all these inner beliefs and the fear that she was holding on to. So we worked together, and it turned out that when she was a teenager, there were a few things that had happened where she'd had to have some medical procedures, and she'd had a lot of fear with that. And so we released what was going on there because she'd stored a lot of emotion in her body. But then the pivotal thing that had happened was it was probably about 10 years before she came to see me, and her brother had passed away very suddenly. And then she had to go to the doctors the next day and have a procedure done. And she was still feeling so much emotion. She was in shock. She had this procedure done. And the interesting thing was she wasn't really scared of pain. That's why we couldn't really work out why she was so scared about having procedures. But it turned out that with her subconscious mind, she just joined going to the doctor with all the grief and shock and sadness. And that was what was all wrapped up together. And so then she made this new association that going to the doctor led to all this fear inside her body. So once we released all the grief and everything that she was still holding on to, because when her brother had passed away, she had just gone into the mode of, right, I'm going to look after everybody else. So she was looking after his widow. She was like looking after all the family, really taking the lead with so many things and not allowing herself some time and space to grieve. So her body had just held on to so much emotion. And then after we'd worked together, and we sort of processed all this grief that she'd been holding on to, well, the good thing was she was no longer scared to go to the doctor because she realized that that wasn't what she was scared of. She was actually scared of the grief and the feelings inside. And then she told me that she could actually say her brother's name and talk about him without getting teary. So like for the 10 years, whether she mentioned him, she had all these tears in her eyes and felt so much sadness. Whereas that had changed. Of course, she still missed him, but she was able to talk to him, like to talk about him without crying and to remember more of the happy things and to not have that huge emotional response. Because when something happens, if we hold on to the emotions, then we can get constantly triggered by new things. And we don't realize that we're not so much upset about the new thing. We haven't released what we're holding on to. Is that making sense?
To me, yes, because that's my world, and release emotion. Just wondering if a person is listening and they never had therapy, or they already had, for example, counseling. So what does releasing the emotion mean in terms of modalities and therapy?
There's lots of different ways we can do it. So there's not just one right way.
Okay.
So I work a lot with people with hypnotherapy. Okay. And I do like a lot of conversational hypnosis. Like I've trained in lots of different styles and I've got my own ways of doing things. But for everyone who's listening at home, there's other ways that you can do this, even if you're working by yourself. So you can do some journaling. So there's lots of different things. It's a matter of tuning into your body and really tuning into the feelings and noticing inside your body where you're feeling them. and seeing what thoughts arise at the same time. Like in my book, I've got lots of different journaling type of activities that people can do. I've got recordings that they can download and listen to. So there's a lot that people, it's wonderful to work with a therapist, and I love working with people, but there's also a lot. And I thought with writing a book, that's important to give people things that they can do at home as well.
Yes. In fact, yes, there are therapies such as art therapy, music
Mm,
therapy,
yeah,
dance therapy,
yeah.
just shaking their body and allowing the cell to really get some new fresh oxygen, I call it, because it's the healing balm of taking the moment to feel. Also, sometimes you need to feel the pain before we
Mm.
can release the pain. And I always wonder if men have this problem more than women in certain cultures, because men are, in some cultures, required to suppress the fact that they are sad and they're not allowed to grieve or to be sensitive or to feel the pain or cry, because otherwise they're seen as, oh, you're not quite a man. And so they store it all in, and then how it comes in being alcoholic or be violent or being in a gang or whatever, depressed, because society does not allow them to express their emotion. So
That's, yeah, absolutely. And I see that a lot with the people I'm working with, because I get a lot of male clients as well coming in, and particularly what's happened during their childhood. If they've been told that, come on, be a man, like grow up, boys don't cry, toughen up. So, and not given that nurturing and not able to express their feelings when they really need to be given a hug, or if they've had discipline that's really, really hard as a child.
yes.
So, or being expected to do things beyond their years.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We also tend to do that a lot with, when you have the child as a trophy, you're hoping that
Mm,
this child will live your dreams, become the doctor you haven't become, the painter you haven't become, or whatever, the athlete. And so there is so much pressure to be good at school, to go to university, get married, have an amazing family, and have a nice house. It's pressure, pressure, pressure. And some people cannot cope with the pressure. When they're down and they want to talk, we're like, oh, toughen up, this is life. But surely they should be allowed to talk about their feelings, so they can see maybe they're not feeling good enough, if they need more training, they need more, just a hug sometimes, just letting them know they're heard, and not just, oh, you're too weak now. But humans are all weak. We need to become stronger. Let's move then to the tips you have to, that you would like to share, the advice that you would like to give to a person who is at crossroads and they're experiencing this aha moment when, like, yeah, I'm really destroying my life on my own. It could be self-sabotage, for example. Lots of alcoholic friends I have, they're like, oh, I was doing so well, and then after a week I just went at it. I don't know why on earth I've done it.
exactly. And so often we don't know why
Mm,
we're doing those sorts of things, like with our behaviors. So in my book, I've got the CREAM technique. So what this is, so the C stands for compassionate curiosity. So just to be kind to ourselves and to really look at our feelings, to tune into our bodies and go, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling inside? What am I doing? Then the R stands for release, to release the emotions and to release the subconscious beliefs, the unhelpful beliefs that are holding us back. Then the E is to raise our energetic vibration. So, because we get to choose, after we've released the old emotions that are stuck, we get to choose how we want to feel. And it's up to us to be the captain of the ship and
mm,
to actually choose that and to lean into it. And then we've got A for align and anchor. So we want to align ourselves. We want to actually create an intention and choose what we want, and then anchor that in. So have things that will remind us of it. And then the M is for movement. So take some action. Just start, even if it's just something really tiny. So you can have a mantra as well and start moving towards things. And it's wonderful if we can move towards things in our mind first, because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So if you can visualize yourself doing that, and at the moment we've got the Olympics going on, all those Olympic athletes, before they go and compete, they would be visualizing, whether you're calling it hypnosis or mental imagery. They would be constantly visualizing themselves succeeding. So do that first. So, and then as far as other tips that I've got, with my book and on the website, I've got 2 downloadable recordings. So people don't even need to buy the book. If that, like, if you want to buy the book, lovely. But if you just want to access the recording straight from the website, that's absolutely fine. So one thing I think it's really important to do is to learn to be the observer of our thoughts, so that we can create some distance between us and the thoughts that we're thinking, because not all our thoughts are real. Like the thoughts are real, but they're not all true. They're not all accurate. They're not all right. So once we can create some distance, then that allows us to be the observer, and it allows us to have that compassionate curiosity to question them. So I've got a recording there that people can use just to practice that skill, because the more we practice it, the easier it becomes and the better we get at it. And the second recording I've got, it's very short. It goes for less than 7 minutes, and it just allows people just to reset, and to regulate their nervous system so that they can access that state of peace. Because I think a state of peace is really powerful. And once we've got that state of peace, there's all these good things that can come from it. So once we can access peace, then we can access our positivity, because we get to choose how we want to feel. So we can lean into our purpose. So our performance increases. So this little recording really helps us to have that reset. Might be a busy day, and then in the afternoon we might go, oh, so much has been happening. Just put that 7 minutes aside, reset, and then choosing how we want to show up in the afternoon.
That's a great set of advice. Thank you. That is, for some people, it might come very difficult to sit with their feelings. If you think about it, because that's why we medicate with medicinals or painkillers or foods. We eat the emotion. One of my previous podcasts is the answer is not in the fridge.
And that's a great title. And it's so true. It is a skill that we need to learn to be able to sit with our emotions.
Do you know what? Oh, sorry, no, you just say.
Oh, and I think parenting is changing. So, and a lot of the advice given to parents these days is very much to sit with your children and to talk to them about how they're feeling and to let them express those feelings. So rather than saying, oh, look, you'll be all right, or here's a lolly, or, here's a chocolate, or here's an ice cream. Come on, let's just put a band-aid. Come on, you're all right, don't cry. To actually because that was pretty much the way a lot of us were raised. Whereas now the advice, for younger parents can be sit with them, say, oh, you're feeling sad. Oh, I see. Okay, you're sad because you dropped this. Yeah, or you fell over. Yeah, that hurt. Let me give you a hug, and that sort of thing, rather than just the don't cry and shut off your emotions.
Yeah, rather than just give them a sweetie or a candy, which then becomes a trigger reaction cycle that keeps repeating. Every time we feel low, we won't remember when we felt loved, and that is when our parents gave us not the hug, but they gave us something every time we felt sad. And then for some people it is food, and that is bad, because then you realize you're eating your emotions literally. And my connection there was to some schools, I can't remember where, probably some in the UK, but I can't remember. In some schools, they have introduced meditation in the first 15 minutes of a class. And they've noticed people that after meditating were crying. Some were more energetic. Some were were more relaxed during class, more focused. But all said it was very useful because, let's say, in a world where we're always running, to actually stop and feel what you want to feel what you don't want to feel as well, and then decide where you're going to stay with this, because feelings arrive to you, but what you're going to do about them, I think that's a huge difference, isn't it? And a lot of people are in a very difficult situation. So meditation is excellent, and you can meditate. Some people think I'm doing nothing, but you can also meditate when you're doing gardening, when you're walking in nature, when you're petting your cat. I don't have one, but I imagine he's amazing. Or when you're taking care of your flowers, you have flowers there and you take care of them, and you think, what can I do with these flowers? And you start looking at them, and soon you're totally absorbed in that. And then your mind starts wandering and you feel better. And maybe that's the thing, that's what your book says also. Yes, we're self-sabotaging, etc., but we really need to center the focus and see, okay, what's going on now? And self-sabotage comes from things that happened in the past. They still have quite an influence, and a negative one in the present. So let's quote, as you quoted in your amazing book, the Roman emperor and philosopher, Marcus Aurelius. I have to read it in Latin because I'm Italian. So the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And what's the best way to do it? Meditation and all this that you said.
Absolutely. I adore that quote. So, yeah, and it's just so much truth in it.
Yes. It's a good place to close a podcast, although I could be talking for a whole hour about this, but yeah. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you will go and check out all the links that we give you, because Rebekah has so much stuff to give you, and there it is, to help you to get and to create the life that you want by overcoming what we call self-sabotage. And sometimes it's just this confusion and not quite being sure why things are going wrong. So it's important to sometimes do your work and sometimes reach to a therapist like we do. We help you. We want you to be happy. So don't have any questions or worries. Just ask us any questions and we'll be able at least to direct you to a good colleague or to a good book or something, so you can take the first steps to reclaim the life that you deserve to have. So thank you so much for being in the show with us, Rebekah.
Thank you, Franz.
All right, everyone. So I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much. Click, like, and share. Bye-bye.